we were telling you that the tests can be done at constant stress with different temperatures and at constant temperature with different stress levels. Minimum creep rate is something which is the slope, and the creep strength is that stress which produces a creep rate of 10 to minus 5% per hour at a given temperature. And in the figure, creep strength for 316 stainless steel, it is a very common and popular stainless steel that can be determined by extrapolation. So let us look at the figures. Okay. So this is your diagram. There is a strain here and there is time in hours there. Time in hours there. And you see this test is started. Of course, it has to start. And then once we reach a very nice straight line, then we stop the test. We don't go further. And at any 2 points, you find the slope delta epsilon upon delta t. This is epsilon. So change in epsilon from this point to this point and change in time. So this will be the creep rate, the strain rate, right? So this is it. And this is tested at 225 Celsius and 230 megapascal. So the stress that was applied was 230 megapascal and the temperature was 225. So the creep rate with these conditions. So now you see the testing is a very costly affair, because at every given stress level and at every given temperature, the creep rate might be different. So here they are telling you that the material is 316 stainless steel. Here is the stress, what stress we are applying, and here is the minimum rate of extension, percent per hour. So this is something else. And if you see, this is 800 roughly Celsius, this is 700 Celsius, this is 600 Celsius, and so on. So this is the lowest temperature, next highest temperature, next highest temperature. So as we told you that if you are at a high temperature, the stress will be low, and if you are at a low temperature, stress will be high, and so on. But this is not a creep rate diagram. This is a totally different diagram. It is a plot of stress against the percent per hour, right? So this is different, right? This is different. We will use this type of graph later on, but we were just telling you here that if you take one constant temperature, any one constant temperature, then if you increase the stress, this rate increases. You see, there are different rates, percent per hour. So if the stress is 5,000, right, then you are here. If the stress is say 50,000, 10,000, then the and so on. So we are telling you the same type of thing in a very different graph, but this is a very costly graph. Each point is a costly test. Each point has to be repeated 2 to 3 times, and then we are testing at different stress levels and at different times. So very costly testing. The good thing with all these things is that you have handbooks of material properties and handbooks of mechanics and so on. So if you are using in your factory, in your application, a certain material, then you can go to properties databases on the internet or these manuals and handbooks, and you can find these creep data and creep curve. So other people have done it for you. Otherwise, if you have to do it, then of course it will be costly, it will be time consuming, but in your company you are dealing with only 1 or 2 materials and only a certain stress levels and only certain temperatures. So therefore, either in your own material laboratory, or there are material laboratories in every big city where you can give your work. So even though it is a costly work, but that company will do it for you, that laboratory will do it for you, and because you are going to use the same material under different conditions of stress and temperature, therefore once that data is available, then you can do your design and manufacturing and quality control and so on accordingly. Determine the steady state creep rate. We are doing this example now for the copper alloy whose creep curve is shown in the previous figure. So that was a copper alloy and this creep curve was shown. So just find the creep rate. So do exactly what we did earlier. right. So, here for example, make a line exactly a line or on 200 and read the value, and make a line on 1000 and read the value, and that is it. Now, the temperature is 1000 minus 200 and the strain is this strain and this strain difference, right. So, this is nothing. I mean, if the actual graphs are there, then these rates are there, and of course, if these graphs are drawn on Excel or some drawing package, then you do not even need to do this calculation. You can find the slope of this stress directly from the package. So, right. So, there is nothing, you just record that at 200 and at 1000 hours what are the values. So, 0.0029 minus 0.0019, this is the thing, and your answer is 1.2 into 10 raised to minus 6 inch per hour, right. It is a strain per hour, it is a strain per hour. So, it is inch per hour, right. So, I am showing this again here, but I just showed that there so that you could know, right. So, this is a very simple one, but again, as I keep on telling you, once you learn of something and once it is explained to you, it appears to be very simple. But the people 100 years ago or 200 years ago who discovered the phenomenon of fatigue, the people who discovered the phenomenon of creep, that these are not normal gradually increasing loads, they are very different loads, and under these loads, at a very low load the thing can fail, because you are applying that load which is less than half the yield strength, but you are applying it for a very long time, and especially if that is applied with higher temperature, right. So, now it is there, but if you want to do these experimentally, then still it is very complicated. The testing equipment is very costly, the accuracy level and everything is important, and therefore, you need to do it very carefully. In metals, creep failure occurs at the grain boundaries, right. So, we told you that earlier, giving an intergranular fracture, right. In the figure that we will show you that voids form on the grain boundaries in the early stages of creep, and fracture appearance due to creep can be somewhat similar to a brittle fracture. Okay. There is little deformation visible apart from a small amount of elongation in the direction of the applied stress. So, this is now critical and a little bit confusing, that there could be brittle fracture. Remember, brittle fracture could occur because the material was brittle, or because it was a ductile to brittle type of material and you went to sub-zero temperatures, or you did it with an impact load. So, lots of ways a brittle fracture can happen, but brittle fracture means that in the micrograph, in the photograph under a microscope, you see very little elongation or very little deformation, and suddenly there is a failure. So, that type of thing, but under creep also you will see something similar. So, we are showing you here voids, you see gaps and voids, and they are all on grain boundaries. Somewhere there are only small voids, somewhere the voids have connected together to make large fractures. That is how it happens. There might have been a small here, small here, small here, small here, small here, but as creep went on at a given stress level and at a given temperature, then those voids which were being created like cavities or voids on the grain boundaries, they coalesced, they combined after a certain time, and then the fracture started to happen, right. So, this is there. Now, we go to creep rupture test. The name is clear. What was the creep test? The creep test was done only to find the steady state creep rate. In the secondary creep region, the straight line region, find the slope. That was the creep test. So, you never need to actually fracture the material. Now, the name is saying creep rupture test. So, it means we will do a creep test until it fractures, right. So, that is it. So, creep rupture or stress rupture test is essentially the same as creep test, but it is continued until the specimen fails, and therefore, it is done at higher loads. If it is done at lower or average loads, it will take a very long time. Therefore, it is done at higher loads. Plotted as log stress versus log rupture time. So, we are plotting stress against time, but on a log scale. In general, time for stress rupture decreases with increased stress, of course, isn't it? If the stress is high, it will fail early, and with increased temperature, if the temperature is high, it will fail early. The causes of why it does are different. Recrystallization. You remember when you were doing in material science the topic on annealing and so on, there was recrystallization and regrowth and so on. So recrystallization, new crystals are formed. Oxidation, things are oxidized. Corrosion, phase changes, right? Again in materials courses later on, and in manufacturing you did phase changes. So many of these things are factors, and sometimes they are combined factors during the creep rupture. So here now is the similar type of graph that we showed you earlier, similar type of graph. So it is time to rupture of 316 stainless steel. So this is now a stress, but earlier there was a percent per hour, a strain per unit time. Here it is rupture time directly, but you see 1, 10, 100, 1000, so it is a logarithmic scale. 1, 5, 10, 100, a logarithmic scale, because 1, 10, 100, right. So these are both logarithmic scales, but we are plotting the stress against the rupture time. So this is a creep rupture test, and then you see again that this is 800 Celsius roughly, this is 700 Celsius roughly, this is 600 Celsius roughly. So when the temperature is high, the curve is the lowest, of course, right, because when the temperature is high, it will fail at lower loads, and if the load is high, then it will need a lower temperature, right, longer time and so on. So three things are there: a stress is varying, a stress till rupture, rupture time, and you are doing the experiments at different temperatures. So remember again that each of these 1 points is now a creep rupture test. So the whole creep machine is there, the tensile sample is there, the temperature chamber is there, the heat resistant extensometer is there, all those things are there, and you are doing measurements, and you are loading until it fails. So you know the materials from before, and therefore you do these tests now at a higher stress. If you do at low stress levels, then they will not fail at low times. So if your stress levels are normal, then you know that the machine will have to run for 10,000 hours, right. So this is bad, right. But if you increase these stress levels, then you can do it. So if you see here that there are no points for 10,000 and 100,000 hours, because that means that we will be killed. We are running the machine for months and months and months on end, isn't it? So we have higher stress levels, so that maximum we have to go is 1000 hours, but still 100 hours is about 4 days. So 1000 hours is about 40 days. So still at this temperature, we have to keep the whole machine running. Remember, the whole machine is applying a constant tensile load at a constant temperature for 40 days. So it's a very, very complicated, costly thing. And as I told you, that each point must be repeated a few times before we are sure that this reading is correct. So I keep on, because you see my practical life, I have told you in the beginning when I introduced myself that I do not want to be a desktop engineer, that you have done bachelor's and master's and PhD and you can do brilliant research, but your practical physical experience is low. So I have always tried to involve myself and my students and my PhD students and everybody in a lot of experimental work. So I keep on stressing to you that some experiments are very necessary, but very costly and very complicated to do, and you must realize that. You should not think that experimental work, oh, there is nothing. Complicated work is where we solve equations and do numerical analysis and so on. No, very technical, correct experimental work is also very, very critically important.